The city of Jalingo is a fast-growing city with an increasing economic activities made possible by Governor Darius Ishaku. On the program this week, it's all about Jalingo, the new face of the Northeast. My name is Nelson Etta. Let me help you discover Taraba. As one of the prominent states in the Northeast, Taraba State is a fast-growing agriculture and trade center in Nigeria. Among other sectors, agriculture is a major contributor to the internally generated revenue IGR of the state. To discover more about its economic outlook, I spoke with the State Commissioner for Budget and Economic Planning, Solomon Elisha. Thank you so much, Commissioner, for having us in your office today.
Thank you.
I must say your office in no small way, like you said earlier, plays a major role in ensuring that the operations and functions of government is run smoothly without any hitch.
Ah.
You have a finance or an accounting background?
I'm an economics.
An economist?
A chartered one.
Aha. So you've been in the business of figures for as long as?
Yeah.
First of all, sir, let's begin the conversation from the figures of Taraba State as it is now. When His Excellency came in on board, what was the figure of the state then, and where have you taken it to now?
Well, let me start with the areas of IGR. Before 2015, the IGR of Taraba State was less than 4 billion. But because of these administrations under the leadership of Architect Darius Dixon Ishaku's prudent in the areas of our internally generated revenue, we rose it from that less than 4 billion to over 10 billion. We, as a government, we were able to make sure that all the loopholes within the revenue aspect has been properly blocked. When the present administration came on board, and there were multiple accounts for revenue collections and whatsoever, that was trimmed down to the barest minimum of and again automation was introduced, and that has helped, shooting up the IGR of the state to over 10 billion as it is in the 2022 budget.
So you've talked about the areas of the things you've done to close up the loopholes, the financial loopholes. Let's talk about the things you did to increase the IGR of the state. For instance, the Kakara Island tea. I was there. How much do you generate from there, and what mechanisms have you put in place to ensure that money comes from that angle? That's one, but there's more. But let's talk about that.
Yeah, the whole thing is that before the coming of this present administration, we have a lot of Marabon industries, which few of them were revamped. We are revamped. A lot of money was invested, and companies like the Kakara Highland Tea now pick up. It was then being handled by government. You know, government has no any business in business. So perhaps what this present administration did was to hand over the company to the Taraba investment, who are business people, and they are doing it very well.
What other areas in the state have you been able to create that generates money?
Okay, it's the Board of Internal Revenue. They are in charge, and they are doing it for the base of their abilities. See, I told you, we inherited a revenue base, IGR base of less than 4 billion, and we move it up to over 10 billion. And that is as a result of a lot of innovations and counter-innovations that has been put in place by this present administration. And it has been yielding a lot of results.
Yeah.
Sir, we have not even reached there. A lot of revenue it's been lost, but we will get there one day. We have started, and we will get there one day.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Let's come down to budgeting. You are in charge of ensuring that every ministry receives what is due them for their daily, monthly, or yearly operations, as it were. How much, might I say, do you budget for the entire ministries in Taraba State, as it were now? How much do you spend in a year?
Well, the 2022 budget, we budgeted over 149 billion for the 2022 fiscal year. Before the coming of the present administration, our budget was laughable. We just create a lot of figures and whatsoever. We said, no, we should be able to have a realistic budget. A budget that at least even we could not be able to achieve whatsoever we have budgeted for. At least 60 or 70% of the budget should be realistic. So we started having a lot of issues with people because we started introducing a lot of new ideas. Things were no longer becoming the same again. Accountability measures came on board, and perhaps we started reporting the budget performance. Yes, quarterly.
So every ministry had to sit up?
Yes, you have to sit up so that we should be able to know what is realistic, and perhaps we should be able to give you an envelope. You cannot just come and tell us that you want to spend a bogus amount of money while we have your assessment with us, how much that has been spent in that particular ministry quarterly, and we should be able to tell you that that amount is too bogus.
How do you determine that when you say you shouldn't spend beyond a certain amount? How do you determine that?
Based on the assessment we have, on the implementation you have done quarterly.
Oh, so if you implement, let's say 80, 90, 100%, you're entitled to go further?
Yes.
But if your implementation is low,
yes,
then you shouldn't come for more.
You shouldn't come for more. We pick from you and give those that are doing better than you.
Could you give an example of a ministry that you've done that to?
Well, we have done a lot in so many areas. But our government is infrastructural driven. We are also sensitive to that. Thank you.
For instance, the Ministry of Works, I guess.
We cannot remove from there. we may add to them, but we cannot remove from them. Yeah.
How do you fund your budget?
Well, as usual, we are not an oil producing state. We solely depend on the federation account and the IGR. then with domestic and external loan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Taraba State, a predominantly farming and civil service state, requires a lot of thinking outside the box to generate revenue to pay salary of workers, build infrastructure like roads, the 5 million litre Jalingo water reservoir, hospitals, and schools. The Northeast states also needs funds to maintain a robust, viable agricultural sector, functional airport, and a globally competitive tea company through increased internally generated revenue.
After 2015, a lot of issues started coming up concerning the economy of the states. The money started dropping. What is accruing from the federation account started coming down, even before the COVID. So we tried to re-energize our strategy in the areas of our budget being realistic. So and that helped in re-energizing the financial sector.
One of the goals of the Darius Ishaku administration is to increase the internally generated revenue of the state. In this regard, the state is boosting agriculture through farmer cash and seedling empowerment program.
The IGR was below 300 million monthly when I came on board. Below that. And there are a lot of things that happens in the state that can generate a lot of money for us. We have several markets. I'm sure while you're driving through, you will have seen them. Several markets. Most of this money goes to people's pocket. It doesn't come to government. So I got some consultants, got some people so that they can see how they will be paying tax from those monies that have been generated from just these ordinary markets. If you go there in one local government, you will find that Monday is a market in X town, Tuesday is a market in Y town, Wednesday is a market in Z town, like that throughout the week. They have a series of markets. It was just recently I got to know that in the Teller, they sell over 2,000 to 3,000 cows per day.
Wow.
2,000 to 3,000 cows. And they are supposed to pay, I think, is it 500 naira tax?
Per cow.
Per cow. Each cow now, I'm talking of bulls, the ones they sell from this state can't be less than 400, between 500,000, because they are huge cows. Most of them, they bring them down from the plateau. So they pay like a 500 naira. So just imagine in just one market. Okay, let them take only 5 million and be paying to the state government. And just imagine that in a week, you have 50 markets simultaneously going. 50 times 5 million. How much is that?
Wow.
That's 250 million. So you see, there are several avenues you can harvest. We moved the IGR from just less than 300 million to almost 900 million monthly. But I tell you, we still can do far more with IGR.
His Excellency was able to empower about 30,000 farmers. That was then in 2017 in Karim Lamido alone. This is a local government that is seated at the bank of River Benue. And they do dry season and wet season rice farming. That empowerment was done only for dry season farmers. That brought a lot of productivity and a lot of empowerment. He created a lot of wealth in those farming communities. And just last year, we were able to, again, he did an intervention and empower youths and women, over 1,000 in Donga local government area. Donga also is a community, it's a local government at the bank of River Taraba. They have the ecosystem for rice production. Now, as we speak, last year, our statistics tells us that we have up to 1.7 million tons of rice
being produced
annually in Taraba.
Rice was grown as food crop, but it has taken the dimension of economic crop now. We send our rice. Even recently, you saw the Abuja pyramid. This rice essentially came from Taraba State. And some people came from all over to carry our rice to go and display somewhere, portraying themselves as the real farmers. But we are the farmers here in Taraba State. So we thank this government that is what is doing. The food that are produced in Taraba State are not sold only in Taraba State. Every year round, at the end of the year, you see vehicles coming from the east, from Ebonyi particularly. They come and carry our rice. Kanu, they will come and carry rice to go and rebrand and call it Kanu rice or Ebonyi rice. But we are the one producing it. So this is the issue I told you earlier, that the Abuja pyramid is essentially Taraba rice. Taraba State is called nature's gift to the nation. That name doesn't just fall, it is because of the characteristics of Taraba State. It is both tropical and temperate in climate. If you crop that can grow in the temperate zone could be grown in Taraba State. For instance, if you go up the Mambila Plateau, you can grow avocado pear. You can grow other crops that are temperate, tea and so on. And if you come down the mountain, at the plain here, we have about 15 local governments that are essentially into crop production, all kind of agricultural practice. And Taraba State, as I have told you, we grow both food and economic crops. The major crops that we grow in Taraba State are maize, yam, soybean, sesame, rice, and cassava. So these are just few. There are others, bambara nut and cowpeas are all grown here.
Other strategies adopted by the state government to boost revenue generation include opening of the airport for investors to come into the state for business, as well as reviving the Mambila Tea and Beverages Company, Kakara.
I inherited 20-something moribund factories and companies, all dead, as in the dead, inclusive of the island tea, which is everywhere now.
What he did, immediately he came on board, was to complete the 400 kilowatt hydropower that was on process but yet to be completed. He completed the hydropower. Since then, is one of the success stories of this company. And secondly, he reorganized the management of the company. In fact, I enjoyed it. That was when I also came in. He appointed me as the managing director for the first time in the history of this place that we declared dividend to Taraba State.
That's a major success.
Yes, we paid through Taraba State Board of Internal Revenue. This has added to the IGR of the state.
The Jalingo main market is the melting pot of trade and commerce in the state. It is a beehive of activities like buying and selling, as people engage in trading of various commodities. According to local vigilantes guarding the Jalingo market, pickpockets and robbers had a free day harassing customers in the market before now. But since the coming of the administration of Governor Ishaku, residents were empowered to secure their market and ensure that stolen items from customers or traders are recovered.
Zooming now, we captured one criminal that stole something here. We didn't used to take the laws by our hands. We handle them before the police custody. Why? Because we are not security personnel, and it's not our duty to take them, to arrest them and take the laws with our hands. Understand? In order to avoid hiccups, that's why when we captured them, we take them to police. Why? Because all I know is that once you are under police custody, your liberty has already been seized. Why? Because you are no longer independent.
The economy of Taraba State is heavily driven by agriculture. Taraba State produces about 70% of the local rice consumed in Nigeria. Yam, red oil, Benny seed, corn, groundnut and other crops are grown in Taraba State.
Sukundi axis is where you get largest quantity of yams, largest quantity of gari, largest quantity of grains to the city of Okari. And Okari now is like a center for food. That is where people come every week to load hundreds, thousands of yams home, load maize, grains, and what have you. So in our master plan, it became an important road. We highlighted it with the red. That needs to be done. To evacuate food from somewhere to where it is needed to be taken to somebody who is in Lagos like you. So once we can evacuate from the rural place, that road is inaccessible. It became an emergency road. Once we connected that, food is available now. Okari has a road that leads you to Makadi, lead you to Jos, lead you to everywhere. So once we are there, we're home and dry. So we turn our attention to somewhere else. When you look at Euro-Zing axis, that is the northern north part, they produce the best yams in this country, the sweetest yam, the biggest yam. Wow! If you eat the yams, you will never eat any.
If you pick rice alone, Taraba, by a survey that was conducted and was funded by IFAD, International Fund for Agricultural Development, in 2017 or thereabout, Taraba was second in rice production in the country. Taraba was second. At that time, Taraba was able to produce about 1 million metric tons of rice annually as of that time.
As at 2015, when Darius Ishaku took over as governor, the internally generated revenue of Taraba State was 4 billion naira. But through a combination of economic policies and revamping of trade in Taraba State, the governor raised the IGR to 11 billion naira, which represents a 200% increase.
From road dualization to the construction of new roads, linking farms to the market, down to Jalingo, the state capital, Governor Darius Ishaku has given a facelift to Jalingo, turning Taraba into a mega food hub of the nation. Until next episode, when I bring you more on the exploits of Governor Darius Ishaku, please come over and discover Taraba.